Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajapachari Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajapachari Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5. Creative Impetus, Chapter 18, The Residents of Jambudvipa for Prayers, Text 32. Jarayujam, Swedajam, Andajodbidam, Characharam, Devarshi Pitri Bhutam Ayendriyam Dayu Kam Chitihi Shaila Sarit Samudra Dvipa Grahar Sheti Abhideya Ekaha. Jarayujam Swedajam Andajobidam Characharam Devarshi Pitri Bhut. Is it? What is it? Okay. Characharam Devarshi Pitri Bhutam Andriyam Dayokam Chiti Shaila Sarit Samudra Dvipa Grahak Cheta Bideya Ekaha Charayujam Swedajam Andajobidam Characharam Devashi Pitri Bhutam Indriyam Daukam Chiti Shaila Sarit Samudra Dvipa Gahak Cheta Bideya Ekaha Charayujam Swedajam Andajobidam Characharam Devashi Pitri Bhutamandriyam Daukam Chiti Shaila Sarit Samudra Dvipa Gahak Cheta Bideya Ekaha Jarayujam, one born from a womb. Swedajam, one born from perspiration. Andaja, one born from an egg. Udbidam, one born of the earth. Acharam, the moving and the stationary. Deva, the demigods. Rishi, the great sages. Pitri, the inhabitants of Pitri Loka. Bhutam, the material elements, air, fire, water, and earth. Ayendriyam, all the senses. The higher planetary systems. Come, the sky. Chitihi, the earthly planets. Shaila, the hills and mountains, Sarit, the rivers, Samudra, the oceans, Dvipa, the islands, Graha Riksha, the stars and planets, Iti, thus, Abhideyaha, to be variously named, Ekaha, one. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear Lord, you manifest your different energies in countless forms, as living entities born from wombs, from eggs, and from perspiration, as plants and trees that grow out of the earth, as all living entities, both moving and standing, including the demigods, the learned sages, and the Pittas, as outer space, as the higher planetary system containing the heavenly planets, and as the planet Earth with its hills, rivers, seas, oceans, and islands. Indeed, all the stars and planets are simply manifestations of your different energies. But originally, you are one without a second. Therefore, there is nothing beyond you. This entire cosmic manifestation is therefore not false, but is simply a temporary manifestation of your inconceivable energy. Purport. This verse completely rejects the theory of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, which states that spirit, or Brahman, is real, whereas the manifested material world, with its great variety of things, is false. Nothing is false. One thing may be permanent and the other temporary, but both the permanent and the temporary are facts. For example, if someone becomes angry for a certain period, no one can say that his anger is false. It is simply temporary. Everything we experience in our daily lives is of the same character. It is temporary, but real. The different kinds of living entities coming from various sources are very clearly described in this verse. Some are born from a womb, and some, like certain insects, from human perspiration. You know what those insects are? Huh? Oh, yeah? Interesting. Others hatch from eggs, and still others sprout from the earth. A living entity takes birth under different circumstances according to his past activities, karma. Although the body of the living entity is material, it is never false. No one will accept the argument that since a person's material body is false, murder has no repercussions. Our temporary bodies are given to us according to our karma, and we must remain in our given bodies to enjoy the pains and pleasures of life. Our bodies cannot be called false. They are only temporary. In other words, the energy of the Supreme Lord is as permanent as the Lord Himself, although His energy is sometimes manifest and sometimes not. As summarized in the Vedas, Sarvam Kal Vidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. Om Ganati Vrindasya Gananjana Shakaya Chakshudan Maditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ukam Karidvachalam Pangam Langai Tegadim Yakipatamaham Vande Shri Gurinditaranam Bancha Kapadavishcha Kipasindabevacha Patitanam Pavni Bio Vaishnavi Bio Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. My dear Lord, you manifest your different energies in countless forms, as living entities born from wombs, from eggs, and from perspiration, as plants and trees that grow out of the earth, as all living entities, both moving and standing, including the demigods, the learned sages, and the Pittas, as outer space, as the higher planetary system containing the heavenly planets, and as the planet Earth with its hills, rivers, seas, oceans, and islands. Indeed, all the stars and planets are simply manifestations of your different energies. But originally you are one without a second. Therefore, there is nothing beyond you. This entire cosmic manifestation is therefore not false, but is simply a temporary manifestation of your inconceivable energy. When I was 17 years old, or at least, anyways, body-wise, but I was in high school. I didn't drop out. I was in high school, and I was in some program where I would go in a few days a week and do some work and read and this and that. And then I would also attend some community college classes, and I was going to Cuyamaca, the community college about 30 minutes from here. And I was taking a English course, and I was taking a world religions course. And at the particular time of attending community college there, I was also visiting the temple, this temple. And I was making friends with the devotees. And as part of the world religions class, which is a common practice, they have somebody from a particular religion come in and speak to the class. So they were doing that. So we had a Christian man come in, a Buddhist woman come in, and in terms, covering Hinduism, they called local devotees from this temple there, who I knew. It was Giraj Gopal and Toda Gopinath. Toda Gopinath is there in Utah, Spanish Fork. He's married with daughter, still engaged in Krishna service, but Giraj Gopal's here in San Diego. And also still engaged in Krishna service. Anyways, so I heard they were coming because we were friends, and they said, "Oh, we're coming to your school. We're going to give a class." I said, "Okay, great." So I met them there, and we spoke a little bit before the class, and then they gave a presentation. And it was very nice. So after each one of these people from the different religions would give their presentation, I would ask a question in class, and I would try to speak with them afterwards. Because I was just coming to the temple, and I was still searching and this and that, and just curious to see what they had to say. And in the class, I remember I asked this, and whatever. I mean, Srila Prabhupada would ask sometimes, and devotees asked sometimes, and I was just curious. I mean, I wasn't out and out completely challenging the guy, but the Christian guy, and I raised my hand. It was towards the end of the class, and I asked him something about nonviolence, and I asked him specifically about, eating of meat, and thou shalt not kill, and and when I asked that question, the whole class went like really silent. It was like pin drop. And then the guy, he responded with some kind of, he was caught off guard, and he didn't exactly know what to say, and he gave some response. But anyways, I spoke with him afterwards, and so I had that habit of. So anyways, I was speaking with this Buddhist woman afterwards who gave the presentation, and of course nowadays, starting from the advent of Buddha, there are so many forms of Buddhism, right? Of course, generally we think of Buddhism as their main goal being merged into the void or nothingness, right? That's definitely there. But there's also other forms of Buddhism where they want to join Lord Buddha in the afterlife and paradise and so on. But this particular woman was of the opinion or the conviction of merging into the void. So I was trying to have a conversation with her about this. And it was very interesting because, anyways, it was many years ago, but it just wasn't making sense. And there was it seemed to be a lot of word jugglery. How's that word? Jugglery? Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. A lot of, just confusion and just wasn't making sense. And I kept on trying to ask her questions to try to get more concrete answers and things that made sense to me. And it just wasn't happening. So we see that there's many philosophies present in this world, but the philosophy of the Srimad Bhagavatam is very comprehensive and very sensible, logical. And it answers many of the questions that, in a very sensible way, that other philosophies just can't answer. Or they may have answers, but they're not very satisfactory. So here, one particular philosophy or one particular idea is being brought up. This theory of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, which means that states that spirit or Brahman is real, whereas the manifested material world with its great varieties of things is false. So it's just false. You could think about that, meditate on that, how it's false, right? It doesn't make sense. And Srila Prabhupada says that one thing may be permanent and another temporary, but both the permanent and the temporary are facts. They exist, but one exists eternally, and one exists in a temporary way. And Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 16. So this is one of the Bhakti Shastri shlokas. If you take Bhakti Shastri, I want you to memorize this one. Na sato vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sataha, ubayo abhidushtontas tvanayos tatvadarshibhihi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So we'll read a little bit from the purport. There is no endurance of the changing body. That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science. And thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all the changes of the body and the mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing, and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalist and personalist. In the Vishnu Purana 2.12.38, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimshi Vishnur Bhuvanani Vishnu. The word existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. So the soul, for the soul there's no change, but obviously the body is changing at every moment. Imperceptibly. It's quite amazing, actually. You look at a picture of yourself, the body that we're inhabiting. When you're 5 years old, 15 years old, 25 years old, 35 years old, and for those who, aged past that, 45, 55, 65, it's 75. You turned 75? This year, December. Yeah. December, Dravida Prabhu, around Christmas time. What is it? The 22nd. Yeah. So, a life well spent in Krishna service, right? You joined when you were 25? Yeah. 25. Joined when he was 25. So, 50 years. 50 years. Yeah. So we look at the, right, we could see the changing of the bodies. But the soul doesn't change, right? People have that experience when their body becomes older. They still feel that, if they're fortunate, right? They still feel that youthfulness. They may feel like they're in their youth, of course, but the body is much older. So the body it's not false. It's real, and similarly, the world, it's not false. It's real, but it's temporary. And the problem comes when we become attracted to that which is temporary. And it's tough because we're in a world where everything is temporary. So there's a lot to be attracted to, in one sense, right? Surrounded by the impermanent, how can we not be attracted by it? But it's a problem. And Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita later in chapter 16, divine and demonic natures. Of course, this is mentioning the divine and demonic natures. And the demoniac are the perfect examples, or imperfect examples, of being attracted to the impermanent. But one can still be a devotee, right? Like the demigods, they say that the demigods, for the most part, right, are not pure devotees. Means they're attracted to the and they're attracted to the impermanent. Although it's more a more advanced, you could say, form of the impermanent, right? The bodies and the heavenly planets, and the right Somaras. Interesting, Radhesham Prabhu said that the Somaras. Remember what he said? What did he say, Prakash? Yeah, it's purifying. Interesting. We never heard that one, right? And we didn't ask for clarification from him how Somaras is purifying. Anyways, whatever. But maybe it's a topic for discussion how Somaras is purifying. But the sense gratification, the bodies, the impermanent situations are more opulent, are more intense in one way. So it's not that because one's a devotee, they're not attracted to the impermanent. They may be attracted to the impermanent. But the demoniac or the perfect or imperfect examples of attraction to the impermanent, with the idea that they have no attraction whatsoever to Krishna or Krishna consciousness. Whereas devotees may have attraction to both. Some attraction to the impermanent, some attraction to Krishna. And the idea is for devotees to become more and more attracted to Krishna and less attracted to the impermanent. Temporary manifestations in this world. And to the point where they actually become disgusted. Not in an artificial way, not in an attachment aversion way. Like, oh, I'm just disgusted, but it's really just a sign of attachment, right? Attachment aversion. But really disgusted means they feel repulsed by it. Like if you bring certain food in front of certain people, and that food may be food they don't like, they're repulsed. Ugh, get it away. I don't want anything to do with it, right? So that type of repulsion, it's a real repulsion. It's not that they're actually attracted, but they're just saying, okay, I'm repulsed, right? Like, get it away. Get that sinful food away, but they're actually attracted. There's a difference. So here in the 16th chapter, text 10, this is the verse. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. So we'll read a little bit of the purport. The demonic mentality is described here. The demons have no satiation for their lust, which is interesting because kama, lust, and prema means love for Krishna. Not just love, but love for Krishna, right? They actually operate under under similar principles. The people who are very into kama or lust, they're never satisfied. It's unsatiable. They always want more. They always want more. They're just, give me more, give me more. But when someone is in love with Krishna, when someone is experiencing love for Krishna, they always want more also. They always want more of Krishna's association. They always want more Krishna, 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 just like the perfect example is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. There's no satiation point for him. It wasn't like, okay, I heard enough about Krishna, right? I chanted enough, I did enough service. Okay, let me do something else. He was always mad after Krishna. So it operates under certain principles. But of course, it's different because kama leads to dukkha or suffering. Whereas love for Krishna or prema leads to the highest happiness. And there's no, it is in harmony with our true natures, whereas kama is not. It's actually unnatural. So, and it says, they will go on, Srila Prabhupada says, they will go on increasing their insatiable desires for material enjoyment, although they are always full of anxieties on account of accepting non-permanent things. The problem with non-permanent things is, oh, I may lose them. So therefore the anxiety. And they still continue to engage in such activities out of illusion. They have no knowledge and cannot tell that they're heading the wrong way. Accepting non-permanent things, such demonic people create their own God, create their own hymns, and chant accordingly. So Prabhupada's talking about, you could say, demoniac spiritualists who create their own God, their own hymns, their own mantra. And we shouldn't, it's not like an innocent thing, like, oh, so cute, they created their own mantra. Oh, that's so nice, and let's create our own mantras. But it's actually against sadhu, shastra, and guru. It's against the scriptures. It's wrong. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went on a whole campaign in Jagannath Puri. There was one Babaji, and he created his own mantra, which they still chant actually in Vrindavan and throughout India on loudspeakers like they do in India, broadcasting. And it's a completely made up mantra. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was preaching against this person, although he was a very famous person in Jagannath Puri. And he was sending his devotees out to actually explain how this person's wrong and he shouldn't be doing this. So it's not an innocent thing. And as devotees, we shouldn't also make up mantras. And in terms of heading the wrong way, they do not know, they're in ignorance, they're heading the wrong way. So that's people, the demoniac, that's people, and if they're not devotees, they're heading the wrong way, but they don't understand they're heading the wrong way. And therefore there's devotees to tell him, hey, you're heading the wrong way. Go that way, right? But, and just like when we're heading on the freeway going fast, right? 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, 100, don't go that fast, right? But we're going fast. We can't just immediately turn the wheel and you slow down a little bit, right? Turn around and then go back. And then so a lot of people, they can't immediately take to Krishna consciousness. So therefore we should try to give them as much association as possible so that they could gradually turn around and head the right way. All right, the purport continuing. The result is that they become more and more attracted to two things: sex enjoyment and accumulation of material wealth. The word ashuchi vritaha, unclean vows. Unclean vows. We have clean vows. Is very significant in this connection. Such demonic people are only attracted by wine, women, gambling, and meat eating. Those who are ashuchi, unclean, those are their ashuchi, unclean habits. Now, of course, for a woman, it will be, right, whatever, wine, men, gambling, meat eating, or same-sex attraction, whatever. Means they're attracted to whatever their sexual preference is. They're attracted to the impermanent, to sex enjoyment and accumulation of wealth. Such demonic people are, induced by pride and false prestige, they create some principles of religion which are not approved by Vedic injunctions. Although such demonic people are most abominable in the world, by artificial means the world creates a false honor for them. Although they are gliding toward hell, they consider themselves very much advanced. So again, the challenge is to awaken our attraction for Krishna more and more and more, and simultaneously to not be attracted by the impermanent. And everyone, you could say, who may be struggling with attraction to the permanent has their triggers, things that trigger them, right? And it may be different for different people according to their karma, according to their particular body, according to their mind, according to their conditioning, their particular attraction. Certain things trigger them to, you could say, fall into illusion in which they forget Krishna and they become absorbed in the dualities of this world. Even, you could say, not just triggers of attraction, but triggers of aversion or falling into whatever the emotion may be. Anger, this, that, whatever. Something that will trigger us losing for us forgetting Krishna. So it's a challenge. So therefore Srila Prabhupada says, tapo divyam, we have to engage in divine austerity. Everybody's engaged in austerity. Right? People are working many, many, many hours a day, right? To make the moolah, or the Lakshmi, or the, what else? Cash, or dinero. What do they call in India? What's the slang in India? Hindi? Huh? Rupee? Huh? Paisa? Really? India's paisa. Paisa, okay. Paisa. I think you said pesa, because you got pesos in Mexico. Paisa. So people are engaged in austerity, right? It's difficult. You talk with a lot of people and they say, like I talked with one devotee recently, I said, how's your work? And he said, oh yeah, it's all right. I've been in the profession for 10 years. He's a, what do you call, criminal justice lawyer or something like that. He said, to tell the truth, I don't like it. That's what he said. I don't like it anymore. But he has to, continue. So you talk with a lot of people, and they may not like their job. And maybe proof of that if we say, hey, we'll give you a stipend for the rest of your life. You don't have to work anymore. Will you continue? How many people will continue? So it's an austerity. And you could say, okay, it's austerity that may need to be done by some, right? Not everybody's going to join a brahmacharya ashram or sannyas ashram or something like that. It's austerity that may have to be done, but it's an austerity nonetheless. It's taking on difficulty to achieve our ends, right? So similarly, we must. It's not an option. If someone wants to be fully Krishna conscious or Krishna conscious at all, it's not an option. We must engage in austerity, divine austerity. And Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, Rishabhadev mentions this, right? How does it start, the shloka? Nayam deha deha bhajam niloke. Engage in divine austerity and eventually reach Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam, the unending bliss. So Krishna mentions austerity in the Bhagavad Gita, and he says there's austerity of the body, the speech, and the mind. So specifically, I was going to refer to the mind. Because much of the time, at least in a brahmacharya ashram, and for a lot of devotees, they may engage in austerities of the body. That's a bit of an easy one, you could say, or automatic in some ways. Because austerity of the body means, okay, rise early. Well, if you're living in an ashram, or if you have some training or some conviction, then devotees will rise early. Or bowing down to the spiritual master. Most devotees, try to ditch out on that one, right? Like they walk into the temple and they don't bow to Srila Prabhupada. I mean, their bhakta leader, their temple commander, senior devotees can say, hey, Prabhu, what's going on? Bow down, right? So it's usually, it's kind of automatic, right? But we'll read. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmins, the spiritual master, the superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, non-violence. Of course, cleanliness is not so automatic. That has to, a lot of endeavor, but austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. So this is, you could say, more challenging or less automatic, this austerity of speech. Then there's austerity of the mind. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. This threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits, but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity and goodness. It's a very important point Krishna is making here, the last point. It's not that we just perform these austerities and that's it. That's important, right? We have to perform the austerities, it's a must. But Krishna says also, we have to do it with transcendental faith. We have to do it with faith, right? Sometimes people come around, hey, I'm bound down to the spiritual master, and I'm reading Vedic literature, and I'm doing this and that, and then the person, before you know it, is dancing in the Kali Yuga circus, right? Has nothing to do with devotees anymore. Well, they didn't have much faith, right? Somehow or other, they weren't fortunate to have that. But we have to have faith, transcendental faith, and also it says not expecting material benefits. So we don't engage in these things that, okay, I'm going to do these for material purposes. Like Hiranyakashipu, he also was engaged in austerities. He was probably rising early and whatever he was doing, but I don't know if he was rising early, he wasn't just standing there. So nor was it transcendental with faith, and nor was it not for material purposes. It was for material purposes. Only engage for the sake of the Supreme. So just for Krishna's pleasure, for reconnecting with Krishna, that's why we're engaging in the austerities. This is called austerity and goodness. So we could engage in these austerities of body, mind, speech, words, right? But it shouldn't be in the mode of passion or ignorance. It's like, hey, Prabhu, I got up early in the morning, but I didn't brush my teeth, and I've been wearing the same dhoti for the last 10 days. Okay, that's getting up, but it's a bit of an ignorant way, or a passionate way. Or there's a passionate way. I don't know what a passionate way is. I'm doing it so people see how great I am or something. Oh, I got up so early and people see how great I am or whatever, for wrong purposes. Like Hridayananda Goswami, at one point, he was doing a lot of preaching in South America in the 80s and maybe 90s, mostly 80s, right? Mostly 80s. And it is an example of passion, but mostly 70s, okay. He's a disciple, so he should know, but 70s, okay. But so the brahmacharis were all very enthusiastic, I mean, they're enthusiastic, but there's a bit of passion there also. But the brahmacharis had this idea, let all the Madhajis, let all the women, let them go to the forest, let them leave. And of course, this is very passionate and just not proper. And, they're devotees, and Prabhupada established ashrams and this and that. But so then Hridayananda Goswami, who was a leader down there at GBC, said, oh, but if the brahmacharinis leave, who will the brahmacharis dance for? So says that they were dancing, right? And you can't, maybe not all of them were dancing for the Madhajis, or maybe sometimes they danced for the Madhajis and sometimes not, but whatever. There was something going on there. There's a bit of you say some passion, tinged with passion, right? Kirtan tinged with some passion. So we have to engage in the mode of goodness. But specifically in dealing with the mind, because the mind, again, it might be easy to do the austerities of the body, right? But the mind, or speech, but specifically focus on the mind right now, but the mind may be more tricky. So Prabhupada gives a wonderful purport here, so we'll read a bit of that. And he talks about it, the mind. To make the mind austere, this is a definition to make it austere, is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. It should be thinking, okay, how can I do good for others? What can I do to help others? Not what can he do, not what can she do, not what could ISKCON do, not what could my spiritual master do. What can I do to help others? Of course, depending on all of these gurus and devotees and others, but what can I do to help others? Means coming up with plans to help people distribute books, or go out, increase Harinam, or become more situated in Krishna consciousness and more knowledgeable to answer people's questions, or talk with people at the Krishna lounge, right? Don't ghost them at the Krishna lounge. Invite people and talk with them, right? Or the Sunday feast, whatever. Just somehow or other. There's so many ways. I mean, it's unlimited, actually, how we could try to help people. So the mind should be trained like that. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. Revolutionary statement, huh? The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and so there's no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. And then Srila Prabhupada says here, the best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature. which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and the Mahabharata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. So it's satisfying, the stories, Mahabharata, Puranas, and so on. But not only is it satisfying, but it's purifying. It's not that it's just our minds become satisfied, there's no purification, but it's purifying also. The mind should be devoid of duplicity, and one should think of the welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in this sense. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. So therefore, Bhagavatam class, therefore Bhagavad Gita class, therefore hearing scripture, right? So many classes, so many wonderful things we could absorb our minds in. And this will satisfy our minds. And help us become more detached from the impermanent and more attached to Krishna. So yeah, the world is not false. Bodies in the world is not false. They are real, but temporary. But noting that still, we may understand philosophically so many things, but still there may be attraction to the impermanent, which devotees and demons may have. But devotees should try to give that up more and more and more, and if possible, immediately. And we do that by engaging in divine austerity. It will purify us. And body austerity may be more easy, maybe not, but the mind is definitely tricky, and therefore Srila Prabhupada's given us good advice here, Vedic literature. So many wonderful things. We have Prakash here and Ravi Teja. Prakash, Ravi Teja. Do you join the reading groups too, Vineet? Friday? Yeah, try it. Okay. They have reading group Friday. A number of them in the community here, and also Ravi Kiran in India. They're reading. What are you reading from now? Yeah, Vritasura's pastime. Teachings of Lord Kapila. So a number of them have gotten together and are reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Some devotees have finished the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam recently, Brahmacharya Ashram. Good. Some devotees are almost about to finish. Mogalila, it's on the 11th canto. Good. So, anyways, there's no dearth. There's like so many books. It's just, anyways, but it's good. Okay, Grantaraj, excuse me, is there any questions or comments?
One point of information. It may be useful to remember when we read these verses in the 17th chapter, the austerities of the body, mind, and speech. That these are the austerities in the mode of goodness. There are also austerities in the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance, which is spoken of in subsequent verses, 1 and 2 verses. Because it's not, this is, as we know from Hiranyakashipu, austerity, and people perform austerities all the time. Yeah. In the mode of ignorance and mode of passion. Yeah. So we want to perform these, but with the consciousness, this is the mode of goodness, and it helps to further the mode of goodness. Yeah.
I can think of austerity in the mode of passion. Let's see how many people. We got a few minutes. Simple one. I was thinking about women wearing high heels. Nobody likes them, and I think no, they don't. They're very uncomfortable. And you've got men, just to be gender fair, wearing ties. Nobody likes. The first thing they do is take a tie off when they get home. So those are simple ones. Anybody else got some ideas of austerities?
I don't know where this tie culture came from. Who knows? Anyway, there's probably some.
It came from there used to be
Like, and so eventually it just became like.
I'm not so sure about that. They don't eat all day.
That's I've heard that's how it started.
It was like a bib culture, and then they made like a fancy bib or
That's
something.
a speculation.
Anyways, we'll have to look into it more, but it's, all of these things have, they came from somewhere, there's somebody started the fashion. I don't know where high heels came from either, but I guess
They
these
say it changes their posture, so they're...
It's
I asked my daughter and her friends.
changes the posture so they could.
But those things become so painful. I think it's edging toward the mode of ignorance. Actually, it's just like.
All right.
"Well."
So what are some austerities in the mode of ignorance or passion? You got some ideas?
Any ideas?
Yeah, I got some ideas.
David Retta.
Sitting on the I-405 every day to go to your job.
What's that?
Sitting on the I-405 for 3 hours every day to go to your job.
But they don't have a choice. That's because I guess they have a choice.
Yeah, they have a choice. I mean, we do the same thing. Like Brigupati and I, when we're going to schools in LA, we have to do the same thing, but we're going on a book distribution. They're going to make money in order to kind of maintain their material status quo.
People have contests who could drink the most.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's true.
Hot dog eating
That's
contest.
Is that in the passion or ignorance?
Ignorance, complete ignorance.
Yeah.
How many chickens? How many hot dogs?
Oh, that's just terrible. Yeah, it's amazing the LA traffic, huh? It's really. I mean, it's probably increasing. Right?
Even like in India, it's like the austerities that some of the people engage in just to like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like you think the traffic in LA is bad. Being stuck in traffic in Delhi, my God. I went from the east of Kailash temple to the Punjabi Bagh temple. We took a rickshaw there. By the end of it, I had like carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's really bad.
Yeah, I remember.
You go to New Delhi with one of these huge. No. When I would take, you go from Vrindavan, then you got to take the plane from Delhi. I got one. Full on from Israel, full on gas masks, which I still have. And I would lie in the back seat because I didn't want people seeing me. That what did you do? Did you just release some poison gas? So I lie in the back seat and get out.
Fired up.
Just on our most recent Wednesday GBC call, one of we can't say too much. Plans revealed prematurely are spoiled, but the devotees in Mayapur and Gopal Krishna Maharaj and our Yudhishthira Govinda, the state government of Bengal has now signed off on a 4-lane highway. It's going to go all the way past Mayapur to Krishna Nagar. And then it's going to have a spur that goes off. You know how now you turn off the road and you get on that, you go through the villages, the last leg. That is also going to be made into now it's a 2-lane, and if you can even call it a road, but it's going to have 4 lanes. It'll reduce the trip from the airport to Mayapur to 1.5, 2 hours.
How long is it usually? About 4 hours?
It depends on
Something like
traffic.
that.
It can be anywhere from 3 hours to I've had it take me 5.5 hours.
So it'll kind of be like the Yamuna Express.
It's like exactly what it's like.
Which is
they've already the money is allocated. They've just sent out the bids, and it's because of the pressure on the coming from ISKCON.
Yeah, I mean,
And our context.
going from Delhi to Vrindavan, I mean, anybody who's went there on the old road, I mean, aside from,
Here's the life in
it's trucks come and it's actually kind of dangerous. Some devotees actually just take trains because of that, And there's been crashes and whatever, but so yeah, it'll be safer also going from Kolkata to Mayapur, which is good for the devotees. You had something, Dravida Prabhu? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Srila Prabhupada would say, just lastly, is that people are engaged in all these austerities, right, material austerities, but you tell them, like Srila Prabhupada would say in India, say, join us. we'll feed you a nice place, this and that, chant Hare Krishna. And they say, no, that's okay. I'm gonna be I'm a human rickshaw, right? And I'd rather carry people and keep up beaties, little cigarettes, and they rather do that. So it's, but anyways.
Just as an example of Prabhupada's confidence, the LA sign. Just as an example of Prabhupada's confidence, the LA, if you go to the temple, there's that sign in the parking lot, the LA temple. Prabhupada said they should put in big letters, "Come and join." They're going to remodel the sign and they're going to include that on there. But Prabhupada said, "Come and join." Prabhupada said we should run an advertisement in the paper in Calcutta saying, "Come and join," but they won't give up beaties.
Yeah. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.